you. Wow. Okay. I want to welcome everyone and say good afternoon to this episode of the Health Gang. Today, funny enough, I'm going to be the only person who's going to be on the set because I'll be doing this introduction to this topic today. So I really want to lay a proper foundation to it so that when we want to welcome everyone, and, so that when we eventually bring in the gang and they join in subsequent weeks, they will be able to build on this foundation that I intend to lay today. And so I just want to welcome everybody. If you have any question, you can drop them in the comment section, and I will be able to see those questions and really attend to them as the case may be. It's a very sunny, it's really sunny. It was sunny earlier in the day, but I think it's, I think it's getting cold again. I think it's getting snowy out there. Okay. All right. So thank you for joining. And so, like I said, the gang will be joining us next week. Today, I will just lay a foundation. I just want to stress a few things. And then when I bring in the gang next week, they're going to be sharing from their own personal experiences, and we can build on that. I will be able to answer a few questions based on their experiences and what they have felt as regards the thyroid problems. All right. I also want you to know that there are no one size fits all, to some of the things that we will share and talk about on this program. We only advise that this is not a substitute for your healthcare, for the advice of your healthcare providers. You can as well, ensure that whatever you do, you are getting enough. You're getting enough clearance from your healthcare providers, and if you really want to get clarification more from us, please do not hesitate to contact us for consultation so that we can guide you through the process of the things that we talk about on this program or Intercirculatory solutions. We do not advise people to stop their medications. We do not do that. Okay, so last week during the program with the Health Gang, we dived into this aspect of thyroid health because of certain symptoms that people see or they experience, and they are unable to explain why they have those symptoms. One thing that unfortunately is going to be common as the COVID pandemic is winding down, are the mental issues. At the beginning of the year, I said we're going to be dealing a lot with mental health. We're talking a whole lot about how it affects you, and certain areas how your mental health can actually impact on the healing of your physical body. And so I am not oblivious to the fact that many conditions are related or associated with our mental health. And these are the things we'll be focusing on. And one important aspect of this, last year, if you had followed us seriously last year, you will see that my emphasis last year was how your gut can actually impact your overall health. This year, I'll be focusing on your mind. And one key thing that really plays a role with our mind, or that interferes with our mind when it comes to our health, is the thyroid, is our thyroid gland, our thyroid hormones. The gland secretes the hormone. And then, unfortunately, this thyroid function seems to be one very tricky area in medical science, in diagnosis, in treatment, in recommendations. It is quite tricky because a person can meet or satisfy all the laboratory requirements. The test comes out and it shows everything is clear, but the individual is still having all the symptoms. But on paper, the person is all right, is okay, and that is how tricky it is. Individuals take on medications, they take the medications, and after all of that is done, they still do not feel good within themselves. And this is how tricky, the thyroid function can be. So with trust God, this month of March, we will be dwelling on the thyroid health. Okay, myself and the gang will be doing that. The reason I'll be bringing them in is to help to put a human perspective to these things, so that to see the human perspective to these things, so that if we don't sound like we just talking from the head or just textbook theories. That's all we're doing. We don't want to do that. The hormones that our thyroid creates, these hormones, they play many roles key roles in many different systems throughout the human body, which is the reason the thyroid is very important. And that is one reason, again, why many symptoms will probably come up. And it might be difficult to actually understand the implication of the thyroid with these symptoms, because most likely doctors will be treating those symptoms without understanding that the underlying the problem here is the thyroid, and not the areas of the body where those symptoms are manifested. Okay, so which is a reason to be very attentive, and then so that we can actually flow together, we can actually treat issues, and then we can give you a clue. You see, so one of the few things I want to help you to do this year is to help your doctors and your physicians, so that by the time you get into the consulting room, you are not a problem to them, but you are able to guide them in the right place, so as for them to get the right answers towards whatever you're dealing with. No two bodies are the same, and you are your own best doctors. If there's anyone who tells you otherwise, that might not be true. You are the person who can best undo your own conditions or your own situation. All right. Okay. So that said, when your thyroid makes too much or too little, which is the major, in medical science, the major point where the thyroid diagnosis takes place. Okay. They want to look at what your thyroid is doing. Is your thyroid making, are the hormones too little or they are too much? And every test will be based on these assumptions, whether your hormones are too little or your hormones are too much. So that the basis for all the tests. And so when the hormones are too little, there is a name for that. When the hormones are too much, there is a name for that. But there are so many conditions and different types of thyroid conditions. Hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, thyroiditis, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. There are several, conditions which have been named, but I'm not going to start from that breakdown of these conditions. But first of all, I would probably want to start with certain feelings you have in your body, because for you as a layman, that is the easiest thing you understand. You don't understand all the medical jargons. You only know what you feel and how you feel in your body. And so these are the things I want to talk about. All right. So the most common symptom that people know when it comes to thyroid is the goiter. When people have that swollen thing under their chin, on their neck. And that is what we are known with, which is a deficiency of iron. But we will talk about that. But that is not the main thing. There are so many other symptoms in the human body, especially for women. I'm careful because we were supposed to have a special program for women this month to celebrate International Women's Day. But I've said every Saturday of this month, the things we'll be talking about will be relating more to women's health. So it pays for us to do that instead of focusing on just one day to do International Women's Day. We will do that later on and talk about women. But this issue of thyroidism is, I'm not saying it's specifically a woman, a feminine problem, but it affects men as well. It's only that women are more hormone dependent than men. All right, women are more hormone dependent than men. We are all hormone dependent. But when it comes to how much of effect we have in our bodies and our system, women have, more distortions when it comes to their hormones than men would have. Okay, so that is the reason I will be focusing more, or will be talking more, about these, especially as regards to this International Women's Day. So this whole month, but it's not just for women. It involves everybody, men, women alike. All of us, we are all in this. So I will list a few symptoms, and that probably you want to pay attention to. If you have one or two of these symptoms that I'm going to talk about, they manifest within you. If you have more than one, so if you have two or three, then you want to really talk to your doctor about your thyroid health, okay? And for people who had always done their comprehensive medical check, we call it medical exam or blood work here, which should include a general appraisal of your health, a general exam of your entire body health, which I advise people everywhere to do. And when you get to a particular age, you are told how many times you have to do it. If you get a copy of my book, Super Health in Stress Environment, there is an entire page that talked about what kind of checks or exams or tests you can do. You can get that book on Amazon, Super Health in Stress Environment. So get that book. It's a lot in that book that is compressed together, and it's just sold for peanuts, like $10. It's one of the best books you can ever buy, one of the best investments you can ever make to your health as an individual. That book, Super Health in Stress Environment. So if you haven't gotten it, you may want to quickly order it on Amazon. And I was saying last year or this year that we are trying to see how we are going to get it across to people who are in Nigeria. Okay. All right. So like I said, these conditions, I'm going to list them. So you can just take a pen. If you know that 2 or 3 of these applies to you or more, then you want to really pay attention to what your thyroid readings are saying. And even if your thyroid readings are saying you are perfect, you are okay, you may want to follow through this program these 4 Saturdays so that you can actually dig beyond the surface and know what exactly is going on. Number 1 is slow metabolism. Basal metabolic rate would slow down, and when it slows down, it makes weight loss impossible. All right, so if you are an individual who has been trying to lose weight, you've done everything you can to lose weight, and it doesn't look like you are losing weight. You do exercise, fitness routines, you have paid attention to your diet, removed all the things you're supposed to remove from your diet. If you have done everything doable to lose weight within the reasonable context, I'm not talking about people who have gone the extreme. There are so many extreme things people are doing. I'm not talking about those, but you've done everything moderately reasonable enough to lose weight, and you are not losing weight. You want to pay attention to the other symptoms I will mention. So like I said, if you have at least two of these symptoms I'm going to talk about, we need to pay attention to your thyroid health. The second thing is loss of eyebrow towards the hair. And so when you look at your eyebrow, if you're turning towards the last one over here, unfortunately, most women, they remove that because of fashion. So they use pencil to write, to paint it. When you do that, you are removing something that can be a very good and quick marker as regards your thyroid health. Okay, so when you look at it, if it is thinning towards your hair, the one that goes to your hair, if it is thinning, you are losing hair towards that place, then it could mean that something is wrong with your thyroid health. Fatigue, you get tired easily. Mood swings, you have mood swings, emotional disturbances, easily loss of hair, you're losing hair, you usually lose hair, pale or dry skin. Last week, Jumoke spoke with us last week and the week before about that being one of the symptoms that you want to pay attention to: loss of hair, pale skin, dry skin, itchy skin. You want to pay attention to those because they could be telling you something is wrong with your body. And what we are saying today is that it could actually be like your thyroid needs some attention. We also talked about this last week: low sex drive, libido decreasing, dryness of the vagina. You are missing your period, or your period is light. If that is happening, it could be an indication of hyperthyroidism, or the frequent is becoming more frequent and then it's heavy. That could be a symptom of hypothyroidism. And then are you also having trouble sleeping? Difficulty in sleeping can be an indication that your thyroids are not functioning properly the way they should function. Okay, so like I said, all these things that I listed, if you have found 2 or 3 of these conditions within your body, it is an indication that your thyroid might be begging for attention. You really want to sit back and then look at what to do to help your thyroid. Don't mind what the results would say. Sometimes the result will tell you everything is okay, but if you are still having these symptoms, your body is the best indicator telling you something could be wrong with you. Okay, and so I'm going to go further. I want to help us to certain degrees before I now begin to profile a few solutions or help for this introductory part. By next week, when the gang comes together, we are going to be able to look at it from a human perspective. We want to put a human face behind these conditions. So we want to talk about what people have felt, then I'll be able to answer specifically and address these conditions and situations specifically as the case may be. Okay, so the thyroid is found, is a small organ, is located in the front of our neck. It is wrapped around the windpipe. It is shaped like a butterfly, with 2 wide wings. And that is the way it is, behind our neck, and that is the way it stands. And so we get it like that. Thyroid, like any other gland within the human body, they produce hormones. For the thyroid, these hormones affect various parts of the body. So if your thyroid is producing too much of the thyroid hormone, it's a condition called hyperthyroidism. If it produces too little, it is hypothyroidism, just like hypertension and hypotension. And both conditions can be misdiagnosed. And that is why it is really now, okay, so we can know that your thyroids are having problems. So what problem is it really having? Is it hypo or hyper? It's another thing to consider and to really get the correct diagnosis, because like I always say, once diagnosis is wrong, treatment is going to be wrong. It's not going to achieve the desired result. So we really want to get the diagnosis and get them right correctly. Okay, so one of the symptoms I spoke about is one of the major work of our thyroid, which is the effect of the thyroid on our metabolic process, on metabolism within the body, because metabolism will determine how our bodies access energy and how it releases energy for the body to carry out every other part of its function. If your body cannot access energy or release energy, as it were, then it becomes a serious problem. Whatsoever else you are doing within your body, there is no cure to it. All kinds of symptoms will begin to flare up. And that is why you find so many symptoms attributed to a thyroid dysfunction, because the body can't get energy. But unfortunately, because these symptoms kind of mimic many, are related to so many conditions. Medical science would tend, or most doctors are distracted, and they are tempted to begin to deal with those symptoms instead of dealing with the root cause of the symptoms. For example, if somebody is having difficulty in losing weight, most likely you want to start doing things that will make you to lose weight. You want to start watching your diet. You want to start, some people will begin to skip meals. Some people will begin to, do a lot of exercises, and all of that has, very important things to do to keep healthy. But you will do those things, yet you will not lose weight. For example, somebody who is having difficulty sleeping because of a thyroid dysfunction. Now, it is most likely that it is the difficult, the sleeping habit that is going to be dealt with. And medical sciences will provide medications to handle that. And then the person is trying to treat that difficulty in sleeping instead of dealing with the root cause. Most times, thyroid masquerades itself in very many conditions that people do not really know. And that is the reason we are dedicating the whole of this month to talk about thyroid health. And I would like you to stay with me. Now, one other funny thing is that endocrinologists, who are the specialists assigned to handle these kind of cases, are even a very scarce resource. You don't get to see endocrinologists. Not how many people want to see an endocrinologist because of it's delicate, it's complex, and so you don't find many professionals in that field. Not so many specialists you will find in the field of endocrinology. So it's important for us to really go through this together, and then we can actually, learn together, and then you can know what is wrong with you and how you can actually navigate this, together. Like I said earlier on, women are about 5 to 8 times more likely to be diagnosed with a thyroid condition than in men. So most times it is found in women than found in men. But the way things are going these days, we cannot localize it or make it a gender-based condition. A lot of people are going through it because their symptoms are showing this is what is wrong with them. It's just a question of how do they want to get out of this, and how can they find help as soon as possible. Let me also say this, that medical science will say that people who have a family history of thyroid disease will actually most likely have a thyroid dysfunction or a thyroid condition. There are also some medications that you can take that can actually also make you vulnerable to come down with a thyroid dysfunction. Okay, so I mentioned earlier on some conditions and some names medically that are given, not these symptoms. I mentioned them. I talked about thyroiditis. I talked about Hashimoto's disease. I talked about hyperthyroidism. I spoke about hypothyroidism. Okay, so we will break all of this down. So I spoke about Goiter, which is the common one, which is a deficiency of iodine in the system. Like I always say that in that halogen family in chemistry, where you find iodine, bromine, chlorine, and the likes of them, and you know that none of these things are meant to be in the human body. The one that we use most is the iodine, and that is what we need. A deficiency of it can cause a serious thyroid dysfunction. And then people have believed that salt, introducing iodine to salt, fortifying our salt iodine is going to be what the solution should be. But we will talk about how to actually handle that in the course of this program, that where you are going to get natural iodine that is going to help your system and help you a lot better, make you feel a lot better, and how to undo your symptoms. Okay, some women also suffer what is called postpartum thyroiditis. After delivery, they just go into that condition. That can be temporary. After a while, it should resolve itself. Okay, Hashimoto's condition is painless, but it happens when the body is an autoimmune condition where the body begins to attack its own cell. Instead of attacking disease cell, is attacking its own cell. That is Hashimoto's. Some people suffer from that as well. Thyroiditis itself is an inflammation or the swelling of the thyroid gland. Okay. All right. So there are some other conditions which can cause. So hypothyroidism can be caused by some other conditions. Okay. In the case of Graves' disease, which is one of the earliest conditions associated with the thyroid. In the case of Graves is the name of a person. The disease was named after him, Dr. Graves. Graves' disease, the entire thyroid gland becomes overactive. So it's overactive and it's producing too much hormone. Okay. So you find the goiter, it's called diffuse toxic goiter. The goiter becomes enlarged thyroid gland. Okay, so we also have the one caused by the nodules. Nodules can also be hyperactive, and so therefore they lead to the condition called hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism. Thyroiditis itself can be painful. Painful, sometimes it's not painful, but most times it is painful. I told you earlier, if you are looking for names, when you see names of conditions that ends with IS, it means it's an inflammation. So that is an inflammation of the thyroid gland. So it inflames and then it can hurt. It could be painful to the person who is suffering from this, okay? But these are certain things that you can do. I will really break that down really quick to see what you can do. And in breaking it down, I will give two advices, which I usually do. I will give you a dietary advice. I also give you a herbal treatment about what you can do. The first dietary advice that I will give is to remove completely from your meal every processed and refined food. If you are noticing that you have 2 or 3 of the symptoms I mentioned at the beginning of this program present with you, you want to do this. Remove completely from your diet every processed, every refined food. Number 2, you want to avoid sedentary living. Sedentary living is seasonal for too long, no exercise, being a couch potato. You want to take that off your lifestyle. You want to, there is a video you will find on our YouTube channel. It's titled Understanding the Relationship Between Your Body and Your Food, the body-food connection. I think that is out of the message of that session. You may want to look for it. If you subscribe, you can find it there. And then eliminate all forms of toxins. Your exposure to toxic stuff needs to be checked, okay? And then also for your diet, you want to intentionally introduce the following things to your diet. When I talked about iodine being introduced into salt as not a true way to get things done. Yeah, there are some other ways. Seaweeds are very high in iodine, and they can help to greatly cleanse your thyroid. Seaweeds. You have kelp, you have harame, you have the Irish moss, you have some of these other plants. They are edible plants. There is a seaweed snack. I wish I remembered. I will have just grabbed that from, just to show you an example of what it looks like. But the seaweed is very, very good in promoting the thyroid health. Arugula is another vegetable you want to introduce to your diet. Ginger, cilantro is another one you want to introduce to your diet. Raspberries are also good to help your thyroid. What are the herbal treatments? The things that you can do. The ones I'm going to talk about right now, they are herbal in nature. I've always tried to break them down into various classes. The first class are the adaptogenic herbs. And in the class of the adaptogenic herbs, we have ashwagandha, you have gotu kola, you have licorice, you have Chinese ginseng. We also have the second class. We call them the circulatory stimulant herbs. That will include the prickly ash, ginkgo biloba, or orthon. These are circulatory stimulant herbs. What do? They help to cleanse your blood. They rid your circulatory system of toxic materials. You will need them to help your thyroid. Lymphatic herbs will also be of a great help. Cleavers, pork marigold, dandelion, knotted figworts are examples of lymphatic herbs. I also want to talk about the immune modulating herbs. The immune modulating herbs. You remember I talked about the fact that people who have Hashimoto's condition will be having an autoimmune condition, making their body to fight against the cells of their own body. So these immune modulating herbs would help. Ganoderma is one of them. Ashwagandha, astragalus, nettle, hops will help to modulate. They are immunomodulators. They would really help to modulate. I mentioned Ganoderma, reishi. Reishi mushroom, right? So astragalus vegetable, right? So this will also help. For women, because like I said, women are found in this category. The female hormone balancing herbs will also be of good help. Female hormone balancing herbs. You have the chastity berry, black cohosh, and donquay. Then the demosets. These ones, they relieve and they control irritations, irritations along the membranes of the body. You have marshmallow, fenugreek, and rosehip in that class. You want to use them. And then you want to also use some astringents like white strawberry, witch hazel, and white oak. All right? I don't believe that these are natural responses that can actually help you to help your thyroid. In the next few weeks, we'll be taking this deeper and we'll be treating this condition. And like I said, other members of the gang will be joining me. We want to put a human face so that we can answer the question specifically and direct them to certain conditions that people may present under this program. And this is where we're going to draw the curtain for today. I'd like to join you all for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that next week you will join us alongside other members of the gang as we continue in this study of helping your thyroid.